Hey guys, welcome to my channel. It's Vesna here. Today I'm kicking off my Summerween, so let's get going. So this here is my inspiration for what I'm going to be making, and hopefully I nailed it. So I'm using this wooden pumpkin from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to paint it out in black. Now I am using Rust-Oleum chalk paint in charcoal black. I just love the way this looks. It's a nice matte finish and it dries fast, and a little goes a long way. So I just paint the whole piece in this color. So again, I will need 3 pieces, so this is one of the pieces that I'm using. So for the second part of the topiary, I'm going to be using these 2 wooden pieces from the Dollar Tree. They're wooden pumpkins. One is just a plain pumpkin, and the other one is the same pumpkin as before. Now I do want this to be the larger piece, so I'm combining both, and I like the texture of the top one, so I do want to add it to this as well. And I will be painting out this in orange, but I do add a little bit of brown and black acrylic paint because the orange acrylic paint that I have is really strong and bright, so I just want to dull it down a little bit. So before I paint it, I do go ahead and I scrape everything off that needs to be scraped off, and I glue the pieces together. The first time I try to glue them, hot glue them, I did not line up the stems, so I have to line up the stems, and that way they line up nicely. I will wind up cutting the stems off, but I didn't want to do that until I put the whole topiary together. So once this piece is done, I go ahead and I use this metal pumpkin from the Dollar Tree again. This I only saw this year and I really liked it. I was going to make something different with these, but I just didn't get a chance to, so I thought I would use it for this DIY. And again, it has that texture that the other 2 pieces have, so I thought the top having even a little bit more texture would be really nice, but I wasn't a fan of the yellow, so I do wind up painting over the yellow parts, well, the entire piece, and just this warm white from the Dollar Tree. It's just an acrylic paint. It's like an antique white almost. Now this piece did come with a bit of a stem, so I wound up cutting that off with some wire cutters and kind of ripping it off too. It's just hot glued on there, so it's not too hard to rip off. So once that's dried and painted and dried, oops, I go ahead and I assemble the topiary. So now here's where I'm trying to see how I'm going to put them together, what I need to cut off, what I need to add, where I need to cut it off. So I decide that I'm going to, again, cut that stem off. So I go ahead and I do that. And I just have these miter shears that are really good for doing stuff like this. And they're pretty easy to cut with these. And then I hot glue the black pumpkin on top. Now, the only tricky part of all of this, now you probably didn't even have to cut that off. You could have just hot glued on there, but I might use that little orange for something else. So I always kind of, if I can save little bits and pieces, I always save them. So anyway, hot glue that onto the bottom piece. The tricky part was the top piece because it was metal and hot gluing metal is quite hard. So I kind of had to get creative with that. So originally I thought I could glue back the pick and just have it kind of stick to the pick, but it didn't work. So then I went ahead and I just stuck some paint stir sticks onto the back, and then I was able to glue the top part. The two tricks with this was it was the metal and also the texture in the bottom pumpkin and the fact that this one is a little bit curved. So it was hard to get it to be the same level as the other ones and have it kind of stick nicely. So by gluing that paint stir stick, I was able to have a place to attach it at the top and a place to attach it at the bottom. Hopefully when you see it, it makes sense. Now to make sure that it sticks completely, I did tie a little bit of floral wire around the top, so just where the stem was and where the stir stick met the stem. And then I just kind of painted over top in some black just to hide the floral wire and a little bit of the stir stick that was showing. You could use weld bond and this would also probably stick to it right away, but I thought this way it just won't move at all. So then I slid it over top of the stem and I hot glued it at the stem and at the bottom in two spots just to make sure that it really sticks. And that's all there was to assembling the topiary. And then I had to add a base so that the topiary would stand on its own. So for the base, I just kind of measured out, as you can see here, it's not the best angle, but I kind of measured out how many tumbling blocks I needed. And then I glued them all together and I painted them black and orange. And I just hot glued them. I'm using Gorilla Glue, so I'm hoping that the hot glue sticks. If you wanted a more permanent hold and to be sure that it would stick forever, then you can use some Gorilla Glue or E6000, whichever permanent glue that you have, and kind of do a combination of hot glue and that glue. But I was going to try this and see how it went. And so far it's been holding up okay. I've had it for about a week made and it hasn't come apart, so I think we're good. So I glued 5 pieces together lengthwise for each side. And then I just glued them to the base of the pumpkin. And after seeing it completed, I saw that I wanted to add a little bit more to the pieces. So I went ahead and I added some black acrylic paint to the orange and white pumpkins to add a bit more texture and depth. So because I am using the small tumble blocks, they weren't quite strong enough for this topiary. So just to do a single layer. So then I wound up adding a whole bunch at the back. Now, if you use bigger ones, you won't have to add as many, but just a little bit more to make it stand so it doesn't fall over. And then the pumpkins needed to be Halloween, not just kind of fall colored. So I have these spiders that I got. Well, this one is from my kids' spider collection. They said they didn't want this one, so I spray painted him black. He was red. And then I also added some of the spiders from the Dollar Tree that were on little clips, and I hot glued them to the pumpkin. So here's the finished topiary with all of the spiders and all of the scary stuff. Love it. I'm so in love with this piece. It's going to look great in my Halloween decor. Let me know what you think of this one. So here's the next dupe. My colors are a little bit different, but I think I nailed this one too. For this dupe, I'm actually using this sign from the Dollar Tree just for the welcome because I couldn't find the metal welcome words this time around. I did actually find them after I made this DIY, but anyway. And this little pumpkin sign as well from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to basically, this is the easiest DIY ever. I'm going to take that welcome sign off, give it a little bit of a coat of paint, and I'm going to give this guy a coat of paint, add some ribbon, and that's it. But it's a really cute little Halloween. It could be for a tray, it could just be a little sign, whatever you wanted it to be. So for the paint, I am using the Rust-Oleum chalked charcoal paint, chalked paint in charcoal. And I'm using this paint because, again, as I said, it dries fast. It gives me that matte color, and I think it looks great with purple, and I'm adding purple accents. So the welcome sign, I wanted it to be purple, but the only purple that I had was a really light purple from the Dollar Tree, so I added a little bit of black into it just to make it a bit darker. And I'm not fully covering it. I just wanted it to kind of have like a purple metallic look, if that makes sense to you. So I did 2 coats of it, but again, they were kind of very light coats, so you still have a little bit of that metal shining through. So I wind up hot gluing this welcome sign, and I want it to be kind of diagonal a little bit on to the pumpkin, and then I use some Halloween ribbon from the Dollar Tree and I cut it into strips, and then I hot glue it so it looks like a little bow at the top. And then I also add a spider, and it was one of the spiders from the Dollar Tree that came on the clips. And so here is the finished piece. Like I said, really simple but very cute little DIY. Again, you could use them in a tray, you could use them as a piece of decor, really up to you, but I love the way he turned out. Although this guy isn't as big as the original, I think I nailed him too. I'm really happy with the way he turned out. This is another great dupe because I am using this mason jar from the Dollar Tree. It came during, I believe this is the Canada Day one, and I bought it at that time. I bought it because I love the shape of it, so I bought a few of them thinking that I might be able to use them for Christmas as well. I was going to do one more fall using these, but I just ran out of time. So there's just so much time, so only so little time that I can do these DIYs, and I try to do as many as I can, but sometimes you just don't have the time. So anyway, I'm using this, and to me, it kind of looked like a skull if you flipped it over. So I thought this would be perfect for this dupe. Now, this skull is, I was going to use a skull because the Dollar Tree has the skull cutouts, but I thought I had purchased it, but I guess I didn't. I looked and I couldn't find it unless one of the kids took it and it's in their playroom. I didn't look in their playroom. But anyway, I may do with this mason jar. So I mean, it's a good idea if you have these hanging around and you can reuse them. Why not? Because we all have so many craft supplies, and well, a lot of us do. So if you can use them or reuse them, it's great. So I'm just cutting off the top to make it a little bit more rounded, and I'm using that pumpkin form, the metal one, to create the top of the head. And just to create a curve, you could do it freehand however you want to. And then because of my injury in the summer, I still had a hard time cutting this. So I had my husband actually cut this out. So I don't have a recording of that, but he just used an X-Acto knife to cut it out. But you just needed to press a little bit more, and I just didn't have the strength in my arms to push and cut. So once that was cut, I wound up just painting the jar or the skeleton in a chalked white paint from Deco Art. It's that little small bottle that you can see in the corner. And I painted it all. I just did one coat because I wasn't doing the side with the Canada Day decals on them. I just did the other side. So after I painted it, I'm measuring out for the hat because I want it to kind of sit on top of his head. I'm using these wood planks from the Dollar Tree. They were, I believe, in a pack of, it'll show in a second, in a pack of 8, no, 6, and for $1.25, and I'm gonna use 3 of them. So then I'm just cutting out the hat so that it fits the head, just kind of drawing a little curve because I wanted to kind of sit, but I want it to sit upside down. So it kind of fits the head, but I wanted the hat to be flipped upside down. You'll see what I mean. And again, I'm using my miter shears to cut this and the X-Acto knife just to kind of help where the cut was and where I couldn't get with it. My husband wound up having to help me a little bit. And then I just used my X-Acto knife just to kind of scrape it down so that it was nice and smooth. So I wound up playing around with his hat. I thought I was going to make it this wide, so I added one of these garden picks from Dollarama to make it this wide, and then I wound up taking that pick out and making it less wide. But I'll show you kind of what I did to attach them at the back too, so that you can kind of get an idea of what I did there. I do, like I said, wind up removing that middle piece, but I paint everything black in acrylic black paint. And before I painted, the reason I'm adding these things to the back is so that it's nice and sturdy and it doesn't kind of move around and fall apart. And like I said, I painted it with acrylic black paint. No, I'm not using acrylic black paint, excuse me. I'm using the Rust-Oleum chalked charcoal paint. And I paint it in black and then I just do an outline of it with a dry brushed white. And again, it's that Deco Art white chalk paint. And there it is, another bloop of mine. I don't even know what I was doing. I was about to draw, and then boom, I spilt all of my paint because I left it open. It got on my feet, on my legs, on the floor, and somehow I wound up having it in my hair too. Anyway, thought I'd leave it in there because, I am accident prone. So then I just used a pencil and I just outlined what I wanted him to look like. Now I freehanded this. I kind of looked at a picture of a skeleton and kind of drew my inspiration from there. You can definitely use your Cricut and make it be really perfect and really straight. It's totally up to you. This is just my interpretation of the dupe. So this is the amazing part of making your own DIYs. The world is your oyster. You can get as creative as you'd like. And then I use a Sharpie just to outline everything in black, and then I paint in the eyes and the mouth and the nose. Once I paint everything, I add a little bit of dry brushed black to the entire piece, and then I cut strips of orange ribbon from the Dollar Tree to give him a little bow. So once this was all done, I wound up attaching the hat, and I just hot glued the hat to the top. And I unfortunately don't have footage of this. I just added a little row of black tumble blocks at the bottom, just tumble blocks that I painted in black. It doesn't really hold it up. It's more for decor. If you want it to hold up, then you kind of want to do like a square at the bottom because it is a heavier piece just because of those planks, and the jar itself is heavier. But here's what he turned out like. So I'm going to say I sort of nailed this one because I did not add the LED lights. Not that I couldn't have, but my arm is not strong enough to try and cut this, and I didn't want to involve my husband to try and carve out the mouthpiece. You could probably do it. The wood is thin enough that I think with an X-Acto knife you could do it, but it's like I said, it wasn't something that I wanted to bug my husband on. So, and because my arm is still not 100%, I can't be pushing that hard. So I left the LED lights out of there, but what you could do is add the LED lights, like just little candle lights from the Dollar Tree, put them in the back and just cut out the mouth, and that'll create that for you. And you could get another piece and, close it all in and have it closed in and have the LED lights be in there too. So the options are there, and this gives you an idea. And again, I'm using one of these pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, and again I'm painting it in the pumpkin orange and then going over top of it with some espresso and some black paint. And all I do is I just add them on and then I kind of wipe them off with a baby wipe. I love using the baby wipe to blend in the colors. It just does such a great job. And after that's done, I have this hat from the Dollar Tree. It is a wooden witch's hat. It was again one of those wood cutouts that the Dollar Tree has. And I'm painting this one out in black to use as his hat. Once that is completed, again, I freehand draw his face. I'm just using a ruler to make sure that I'm putting it in the same eye level. And then I do his nose and his mouth. Again, you could use your Cricut for this and it would be really perfect. Mine is not perfect, but I love him nonetheless. Once I finish that, I attach his hat. I kind of toyed with the idea of putting it on sideways, but I'm happy with it being straight up. You could again do whatever you'd like. And then I just attach the bottom pieces for it to stand up on its own. And again, I'm using those tumble blocks because they're just great to use. And they just they're so inexpensive and they go such a long way. Like you can use them for some, they're so versatile. I guess that they go such a long way, but they're so versatile. And all I'm doing is I'm using 4 of them for the bottom piece, and then I wind up adding another piece at the very bottom to kind of, another 2 pieces to kind of make it stand up kind of so it's a square piece that they're on top of. And I paint them in black and hot glue everything together, again using that Gorilla hot glue. And here's what he looks like. And here's the final dupe. I really like the way mine turned out too. So let me know what you think. Mine was 100% almost cheaper. It only cost about $1.50 to make. And so here's my last Kirkland's dupe. This is like almost not even, it's just such an easy dupe. So all I'm doing is I've got some branches from the garden that I just picked up. We had a nice windstorm, so I had tons of branches. And I have this little crate from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to spray paint both in that Tremclad black, flat black paint. And once I do that, I assemble the pieces together. So I was closing that paint because even after the spill, I still hadn't closed it. But anyway, so I'm going to put some floral foam into the crate, and then I'll add some rocks on the top just to hide it. And then I'll put the branches in, and then I'll put the rocks over top to hide the little floral foam. And then I attach some spiders to this. I wanted to attach little birds, but I couldn't find them, so they didn't have them at the Dollar Tree. And they had the wood bats, but they weren't big enough, so I just used these little spiders. And again, it's those ones with the clips on them, but I took the clips off and I hot glued them. And that's all there is to this one. The rocks actually serve 2 purposes. They keep the piece from toppling over because the branches are so tall, and they hide the floral foam. And here it is completed. I really like the way it turned out. It's very cute. It's very kind of spooky, but yet very simple. And I left the spiders purple because I thought they would just add a little pop of color, and I'm loving the purple and the black together this year. So thank you again for watching, and you made it to the end. It was a longer video today. I hope you enjoyed my Kirkland's dupes. Here they are again all together. I think they're going to look fabulous in my home decor, and they were definitely cheaper than what the cost of some of these were. These 3 jars that I was going to use for a different project, but I wound up not using them for that, and I spray painted them in a white Tremclad flat paint. And I'm also using these free printables, which I got from Whiskey and Wit. I will link her blog in my description below. I printed them on the Hippo water slide decal paper, and I've just cut them with leaving like a little bit of a border around them. If you want the full tutorial on how to do this, I will link my video below. I've done a tutorial on them previously. And basically I'm just wetting the decals and I am applying them to these jars, and then I will be writing some text on them. I've decided that I wanted them to say trick or treat, so I am just writing that out in a Sharpie. You could definitely use some vinyl if you have a Cricut cutting machine. I just decided for this I wanted to freehand write it. And because the cat is a little bit bigger, I've decided the cat one to be the or, because that's a smaller word to write down. And then I'm just stuffing them with some Dollar Tree picks, some of the blue dahlias and other florals. And I'm also wrapping some jute rope around the rim of the jars, and I'm doing it about 4 times. Do however much you want. You don't even have to do this. I just thought it would look a little bit nicer. If you use mason jars, you could spray paint the rim to a color of your choice, kind of to match whatever your printables are, and then you could put that around, but I did not use mason jars, so I'm just wrapping some jute rope. So that's about all there is to it. Once I put those floral picks in there, I also added some of the skeleton skulls into the floral arrangement, and that's it. The easiest DIY ever, and it looks so cute, and it'll be a great either mantelpiece decor or in a tray on one of my tables. I haven't decided yet, but here they are all finished. For this next DIY, I'm just using some Rust-Oleum chalked country gray paint and these carvable pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. These pumpkins are great because you can do all sorts of things with them. And these little stems just come right off because they're just on a toothpick. And I remove them and I just give these 2 coats of the gray paint. And then I will be stacking them. I got this inspiration from from Kirkland's. They have a 4 stack of like 4 pumpkins stacked one on top of the other, and I thought it was super cute, so I thought I'd replicate it. Now I'm just using 3. I just thought they're so light, these pumpkins, that it might be too heavy for 4 of them. So once those are painted and dry, I decide to stack them. Now I'm using hot glue to glue them down, but I'm also using just one of those barbecue skewers, the wood ones, to stick them on, and then I kind of do them topsy-turvy. So I put them off to the side and I use that skewer. I've cut it in half and I use it to poke it down so that it kind of goes sideways, if that makes sense. And then I just do that until I get the shape that I want, and I reinforce it with hot glue. Once I have them all stacked, I put back the little stems and I paint them in black. And I do this so that way I can add them back to the pumpkin and have the pumpkin kind of look like it's all wobbly and sideways and kind of crazy looking. And then I cut out a mouth and eyes out of vinyl. Now I wanted all the eyes and the mouths to be different. So you'll see that if you want them to be symmetrical and perfect, by all means either use your Cricut machine or you can trace out shapes. I mean, you could do anything you wanted. This is kind of the look that I was going for. And once everything dry, I also wound up touching it up a little bit too, and then sticking on the vinyl, and that's all there is to this one as well. So again, a super fun and easy DIY for you to do on a budget. So here it is all finished. I think they look so cute. They kind of look a little bit crazy, and I just love them. They'll look great in my Halloween decor. This next DIY is another super easy one. I'm using a mason jar and one of these solar lights from the Dollar Tree, and I am just painting it on the inside in white, and I'm adding a little bit of water to some chalk paint, and I poured it in and I just kind of twirled it around until I got the color that I wanted. Then I spray painted the top of the solar light in black as well as the rim for the mason jar. And I drew on a ghost face, wrote boo, and that's all there is to this one. And for sure, if you wanted to use your vinyl, you totally could, and it would look awesome. And here it is. I love the way it turned out. I think he's super spooky. For this next one, I'm using the decals again. I'm using the Witch's Starter Pack one. And again, I cut it so that I wouldn't see any of those lines and as close as I could to the edge. And I'm going to put it on a mug. Now, if you wanted to use this as a drinkable mug, I believe you can even bake them in the oven, so that way it sets, or you could put Mod Podge or anything that's kind of food safe. I'm not going to be using it for eating, so I'm just going to be putting it on there, and it'll probably go into one of my trays. And so I just adjust it. Now, what I like about these, if you wet them enough, you can kind of fiddle around with them and get them to be wherever you wanted them to be. Like they're forgiving to a certain extent, but you just have to wet them really well. So anyway, here they are, and then you want to move when you're taking the excess water off. Don't press too hard like I did with this paper towel. You just want to do it lightly from the center out, so that way you don't move it or wrinkle your paper. but that's all there is to it. They're so easy to use, and I think they look really great. So here it is all finished. I didn't display it in a tray. I will do that a little bit later on. I just wanted to show you what it looks like on its own. For this next one, I just have a scrap piece of wood. You could definitely use one of the signs from the Dollar Tree. Just be careful if you're going to use it outside. Um, that sign may fall apart because it's just like chipboard or pressboard, so it's kind of like paper. So I'm using just some pressure treated wood that I'm going to stain. I think it's pressure treated, or it could just be from a pallet. It was from the garage. It was just a scrap. It was where the pressure treated stuff was, but I'm not sure that it is. But anyway, I'm going to be putting a little bit of this Rust-Oleum decorative glaze just to give it like a stain. And then I'm going to be making it a sign. Now, I haven't decided whether I'll keep this underneath like where my deck is, my covered deck, or if I'm going to put it out front. If I put it out front, I'll have to protect it somehow with some varnish. But if you have a covered porch, you don't have to do any of that. So then I just picked a font that I liked from Cricut. I will link the font name in my description below. And I found a free broom image from Cricut Design Space. And I cut them out using my Cricut. And now I'm going to just dab on some white paint onto them. Always use a transfer paper when you're transferring vinyl like this, otherwise it'll stretch too much and it won't look very nice. I did weld all of the letters so that way it would all look good. And when you are dabbing on the paint, make sure you tap off the excess paint so that way not too much goes through, otherwise it'll bleed. And here it is all finished. I really love the way it turned out. It's so super cute. Now, because I was going to hang this up outside, I decided to make some brooms with the boys. I couldn't find the little fake brooms at the Dollar Tree or our Dollarama this time around, so we collected some sticks and kind of wrapped them around with jute rope around some bigger sticks to make our little brooms. I mean, they're just whatever fun little things me and the boys did, and here's what our brooms look like. So I might put them out, I might not. I haven't decided yet, but that's what they look like. Okay, the next one is another fun one that I wanted to put for an outdoor decoration. So I have tomato cages that I'm using. I'm using 3 of them. And I have some floral foam, and I'm going to be making some witches. So I need some Dollar Tree buckets. Now, these are just the trick-or-treat buckets that you can pick up from the Dollar Tree or Dollarama. They were $1.25 each, and this is going to be her waist. So you want to put it on the spiky edge of the tomato cage. The thing with these is the video that I watched and the inspiration that I got, she used those round buckets, those round pumpkin trick-or-treat buckets, but I haven't been able to find those. I think they do have them maybe at Lensmill or Walmart, but they're quite expensive. So I didn't want to spend $4 or $5 on each because, times 6, because that's how many you need altogether. That would be quite a bit of money, and then I might as well just buy the witches already made. So anyway, I'm creating 3 of these using, like I said, these trick-or-treat buckets and some garbage bags. So once you have that bucket attached, you do want to put, if it doesn't quite fit like mine, you want to put something like floral foam and some hot glue to make it stand up straight. Then you put a garbage bag over top and get some jute rope and tie it around her waist, just kind of below the bucket. And then you're going to use another bucket to put on top. You want to hot glue that bucket. We'll see how long it lasts. I'm not going to put them out until about a week before Halloween because we do sometimes get snow here. It gets cold. It gets very weird around Halloween time. So I will put them out then. I will have to attach some spikes to them to the bottom so they don't blow away. But it depends on what your climate is. But anyway, I'm using 3 different colors of the top bucket. So I'm using a green, orange, and a purple one. My son was watching me edit the video and he got very excited that it's going to be Halloween soon. So anyway, you attach that and then you attach your hat. You're going to need 3 different hats. I found these at Dollarama. They were $2.50 each, which I was hoping to find them at Dollar Tree, but our Dollar Tree didn't have them. So kind of, some ideas. Maybe you can find them for cheap and, make this nice, cute little decoration. Now I picked up some flashing lights from from Dollarama as well. They were $1.25. I think Dollar Tree has them too. So I'm only hot gluing a part of the hat to the one side, and I've stuffed the top of the hat with just some bags so that way the hat sticks up. And the reason I'm not hot gluing the whole thing is because I will be turning them on nightly, so I want to be able to turn them on and off. And in order to do that, you have to be able to get in. So I'm just hot gluing one part of it and the other part I'm leaving loose. We'll see how it holds up in the wind. So please don't mind the mess in the craft room. It is a disaster. I had bought some Christmas and Halloween stuff and I think I'm done buying, but I haven't had a chance to put it away. But anyway, I will be tying the witches together using just a garbage bag that I've cut in half, and I'm going to tie it in the middle. So that way the witches it looks like they're holding hands when I tie them together. And I'll have a cauldron out as well. I will have a Halloween front porch and house tour up. And if I don't have these up by the time I do the Halloween front porch, just because I plan on putting these out kind of a week before Halloween, I will post it on Instagram. So make sure you check it out there. So here they are all lit up outside. I really love the way they look. I think they're awesome, and my boys got all spooked by them because I did this at night while they were sleeping and they thought they were so cool. Now, as you did see from the title, this video is a part of the Heidi Sambol DIY challenge. If you have not had a chance to check out this challenge, make sure you check it out. There's some amazing inspiration on here. Check out Heidi's channel. She is one talented lady. I will have her information linked in the description below, as well as the playlist. This playlist is going to be awesome. The theme was Thanksgiving or Halloween. So lots of great inspiration in there. Mine was all Halloween, so anyway, make sure you check everything out. It'll be linked in my description below. And here they are without a flash, just so you could kind of see what they look like. With the head, it looks like floating heads. I think it's pretty cool. But anyway, I love them. But I'm biased. So anyway, on to the next DIY. So this one is another spooky one. It's for outdoors again, and I'm using 4 of these laundry baskets from the Dollar Tree. And I've cut the top of the baskets off, and I just cut it around the rim just so you could see. And I will be spray painting them in a flat black from Tremclad. And to cut them off, I just used my miter shears, and to spray paint them, I just use that spray paint. And once I've spray painted all of them and they dried, I'm going to attach them together and attach the chains. I'm also using 3 chains from the Dollar Tree. To attach the chains, I'm going to do kind of a combination of 2 things. I'm going to hook them on because they have little slits, and I'm going to attach them with some zip ties. And then I'm going to attach the baskets, the 2 baskets together, one on top of the other, also using zip ties, but I'm going to leave a little bit open because I want to be able to put the skeleton animals from the Dollar Tree in there. So it kind of looks like I've captured some animals in there. And again, the spook factor. And these will just be hanging outside. I have one of those planter hanger things, so I'll be hanging them on those. Again, a really simple and inexpensive DIY, and again adds to the spook factor. When you're placing the baskets one on top of the other, you're just going to have to play around with it to make sure that they kind of line up. And it's up to you how much, whether you want to push it down a little bit more or you want them to kind of stay up, but just use zip ties. I'm using black zip ties so you can't see them to tie them together. And then I am tying the two baskets together with a chain, but I'll do that outside and you'll see the picture. I really do apologize for the wonky angles, but I wanted to show you how I attached the chain, and then I wanted to show you where I put the animals. I did hot glue the rat to the bottom, and then the bat I had hanging up from the top of the basket, and I hot glued his little hands to the top as well. But these are really hard to record. I don't have that much space in there to record this like where you can see it properly, unless I was doing it on the floor, but my back will go if I try to do it on the floor. But I just wanted to kind of give you some of these ideas, and hopefully you can see enough that you can understand how I made these. And then so you can see the rat there, and that's where I was telling you you'll have to kind of fiddle around with to try and get it to get in there. And once you get it to sit one on top of the other the way you want it, then you just want to close it up with your zip tie. You might have to cut one of the slits just a little bit so that way it gives. But other than that, that's all there is to it. It's really, really easy. So pretty spooky stuff here, and I love, love, love the way they look. They'll even look cooler when it's like not so sunny outside and a little bit cloudy. Why I'm making a little haunted house using this mini haunted house cutout, some moss, some charcoal and Rust-Oleum chalked paint in charcoal, and then some deco art chalky finish paint in white, and then some of these wood cutouts from the Dollar Tree as well that are kind of like stickers, but I wound up hot gluing them and painting them, and then obviously some hot glue as well. So I start off with just painting the haunted house, and I'm using, as I said, that black paint from Rust-Oleum, so it's a charcoal paint in the chalked finish. And I paint it all the way through on the back as well, and then I go over top of it with some of that white paint. And now when I'm painting the haunted house white, if you've watched my channel before, you know that I like to paint things, either dry brush them or paint over top of them, and then I like to blend everything in with a baby wipe. So for this haunted house, for the white part, I'm going to paint the whole haunted house in white, and then I do a little bit of blending with a baby wipe. And to me, it just gives that like a great effect. And that's all there is to the painting of the house, and then I will move on to painting the wood little cutouts. I'm very excited to let you guys know that today's video is a part of the Pinterest DIY challenge, which is hosted by the lovely Sonia over at Domestic Diva DIY. And what we had to do was we had to create DIYs of any theme of our choice that were Pinterest inspired. So mine are all Pinterest inspired, and make sure you head on over to my Pinterest to see all of these inspirations. I have 3 different Halloween boards and a tier tray board, and my ideas were all kind of inspired from pins in those boards. So head on over there if you wanted to see the originals. And there's a playlist, so check that out. It'll all be linked in my description below. Once I paint that and I go over to let it dry, then I go ahead and I paint the bats and ghosts and pumpkins. The bats I'm painting black, the ghosts white, and the pumpkins I'm using orange. I did forget to say that I'm using some pumpkin orange acrylic paint. And I just let everything dry. You only need 1 coat of the dark and the white because the wood is so raw, and you're able to just paint over it really well with one coat. And then I go ahead to assemble everything. So really, I just sort of just put any of the shapes wherever I think they would fit best. I'm kind of wanting the ghost to be peeking out through some of the windows as well as around the house, and then I add the bats as well. I thought I was going to add that skeleton head, but decided, yeah, I don't like that. So I just go ahead and I attach these, and I wind up using some hot glue to reinforce it because the little stickies aren't the best. And then I add the moss at the bottom, and that is all there is to this, and it just turned out amazing. So here I have just this wood plank, which has like a little bit of an indent. It almost looks kind of like a square from a canvas if you were to take a canvas off, just very small. And I'm going to use it for the next DIY, and I am making kind of like a shadow box. So I'm actually using the inside of it versus the outside. And I'm going to create like a Halloween scene, which I thought was really cute. Um, Pinterest is full of fantastic ideas. So I'm using this. I happened to find it at the Dollar Tree. I haven't seen them really ever, so this was the first time. But if you can't find something like this, you could easily make this with just a piece of a square block. Now it could be from one of those signs if you cut it off, or sometimes they do have little squares, wood squares that you can buy, and some tumble blocks, and you can make this super easy. So I did show you that I'm using those pumpkins and the little, actually it's a wood cutout that they had for Christmas, and I'm going to use it for this. I'm just cutting off the tree, but the orange and brown acrylic paints I'll be using for the pumpkins just because I find the orange to be a little bit much. But before I do any of that, I am doing the inside of this box, shadow box or plank, whatever you want to call it, and I am painting it in just a black paint. I happen to be using my Rust-Oleum charcoal paint, but you could use acrylic paint. I'm just using that because I have it on hand and I had it out for the other project, so I thought I would just continue on with it. So for the border, I'm just using the part of the brush to dry it off, and then I'm going to be blending it in with a little bit of a baby wipe, and just to kind of make it look like it's a lighter shade of black. And then I go ahead, as I mentioned, to cut off the Christmas tree just to give me a little pickup truck that's going to be actually holding some large jack-o'-lanterns versus the Christmas tree. And I do have to paint out the truck, and I'm painting him out in like a combination of orange and black. So I will have all of these displayed on a tray for you at the very end. And if you really want to see how I put trays together and how my trays look for Halloween, I am having an episode come out on the 13th over on my home channel where I'm going to be displaying my tier trays for Halloween. I'm going to try and do the house tour as well before that, after that, but I'm not sure how fast I'll get it done. I have a very, very busy week with family. It is my little guy's 6th birthday, so it's a very busy week, so I don't know what I'll be able to finish, but I will try to have the home tour done next week as well as the porch tour. So if you're interested, make sure you check out my home channel as well. Subscribe there and hit the notification bell so you see more. And if you're not subscribed here, do that as well because I post about it on my community too. So after I have everything painted, I go ahead and I just make the tree that I want the tree to kind of look like there's a shadow and it's kind of spooky. So I'm just using some jute rope for that. And what I'm doing is just separating the top of the jute rope. So it'll be one thicker piece and then a few pieces kind of frayed at the top. And then it's time to assemble everything and finish off the truck. I wind up painting like a moon and some clouds at the top in white, and then I hot glue everything down, and then I just add little touches to the truck and to where they're needed, just so that it gives me the look that I am going for. And this is super easy and super fun to do, and if you have a Cricut, you could even cut out these shapes and paint them in, whatever you'd like. And if you can't find the same thing, if you can't find the little truck, you could always use those rubber ornaments that they have at Christmas time, or you could just cut out a truck from cardboard and or cardstock and then just paint it out. Really super easy to do, and the options that are there if you can't find stuff at the Dollar Tree, because I know with ours it's like a hit and miss. If I go back now, I won't ever see these again for the rest of the season, and I happened to just run across them in August. So here it is all finished, and I think it's so cute and kind of spooky. So another even more simple DIY and very cute. I'm using these pumpkins. These are the carvable pumpkins that you can use for so many fall and Halloween DIYs, including some Christmas DIYs, which I will be showing you this month. But if you can pick these up, they're so versatile that you can use them for so much. I suggest you pick them up. So I'm using my Rust-Oleum chalked paint in linen white, and I'm painting my pumpkin out. Now this took 3 coats for it to completely cover. It just had the orange just kept on showing through, so you just do need several coats to cover it, and that's why I use the chalk paint versus acrylic paint, because I didn't want it to use up all of my white acrylic paint for this pumpkin. You don't have to use the chalk paint. You could use any paint that you have on hand, but I like to buy this big gallon, well, not gallon, but this big tin of the chalk paint, because it's not a bad deal, and chalk paint dries fast. It has that matte finish, and it's high quality. So I think I would have even needed more coats had I been using acrylic paint. And so all I'm doing with this is I'm painting the pumpkin black, painting the pumpkin white, and I'm painting the stem black, and then I'm using my Cricut to cut out a crow. I got the image off of Cricut Design Space. I just put crow and it was a free image, and then I put the stencil on and I painted in, and that's all there is to it. If you can freehand draw a crow, I tried to do that. It didn't work out for me. So I wound up using my Cricut, but if you can do it, by all means do it. Or if you have like a cutout or anything, or if you can even find an image online and print it and then cut it out and then trace it around and paint it in there, whatever, depending on your abilities. So the only thing to keep in mind if you are using vinyl as your stencil for this is you want to make sure that when you put the crow stencil on, that you're either pushing it down when you're painting or dabbing it really lightly, but you still have to make sure that it's sticking to your pumpkin really well, because the pumpkin is textured and bumpy and it can leak, so you just have to be careful. And then also your vinyl will likely rip off some paint, so you got to go back and put more paint on, or if you cover it in Mod Podge, it probably won't rip the paint off. But just some tips. So here it is all finished. Again, super simple, but it'll look amazing in the tier tray. So these next few DIYs are, again, super simple DIYs. I'm using some of the fall stuff in together with some of the Halloween stuff, and really easy but cute little additions to the tier tray. So for this one, I am using 2 hay bales and these bloodshot eyes. and I am just hot gluing the eyes to the hay bales. And then I'm hot gluing each eye on top of one on top of the other and kind of making like an eyeball topiary. Very cute, very Halloween, and really fun. And that's all there is to it. So that's it, and here it is. I love it. I think it's cute and very Halloween. So if you thought the last one was simple, this one is even more simple. What you'll need is a skull, and I had this little pack of skulls in here, and an eyeball, so I'm just using what's left over. And you would just want to make a little hole in your eyeball and a little hole in your skull. You can either use some sort of knife for this. You could also use your glue gun and melt it down a little bit and then cut it out. Up to you. I wound up using just like a little knife to pick out a hole. And then I have these little faux votive candles, like battery operated ones. And I'm just putting these on top of those. And then I have some of the Halloween ribbon that I bought at the Dollar Tree, and I'm just wrapping it around the base of the votive candle so that they match, and that's all there is to it. So just look how cute these guys are. They're so cute, and they've got the spook factor because they have that light inside of them, and they'll just look amazing in a tier tray. So I'm back to the hay bales. I love these hay bales. I'm so excited that they came around this year. I've done so much with them for fall and now into Halloween, and I may wind up using them even for Christmas, who knows. But I am just hot gluing a whole bunch together to try and make kind of like a stack of hay like you would have at the farm. And then I will be using those skulls that you saw in the previous DIY, and I'm going to be making kind of like a skull topiary type of thing on top of these hay bales. Really easy, really fun. Now the inspiration was with pumpkins, but I've decided to do skulls, and I've done that a few times throughout this video where my inspiration was a little bit different, but it was my inspiration, and that's where I like my creativity came in. And I hot glue these together, and then I hot glue the skulls one on top of the other, and again that's all there is to this one. Again, another really easy one, not too difficult this time around, but still super cute. I did decide to add some of the bones. There was like a pack of bones at Dollar Tree that you could get, and I just added them to the hay bales just to add a little bit of detail. And since I had a bag of bones, I decided to do a stack of bones. And I mean, what's more spookier than a stack of bones on Halloween? So I'm just making kind of a random stack of bones. I'm putting 3 horizontally and then 2 vertically, and then I continue adding as I see fit. And I make my stack of bones. I actually put 3 vertically, not 2 vertically. But anyway, I just continue to do this until I get the height that I was looking for. It just like another cute thing to add to your tray. I'm always looking at different little fillers and different things that you can put in trays, and I thought this was perfect.
If you think this is too simple and you're not liking the color of the bones, you could always paint them a different color to make them maybe look a little bit more realistic. But I really liked the kind of dirty, yellowy white kind of color of these bones and skulls and all that, so I left them as they are. To me, they kind of look rustic and more zombie-like, I don't know. Then I wanted to continue on with the spook factor, so I found this image from Whiskey and Wit, and I printed it off. It's from her blog. And I printed it off, and now I'm just cutting it to size so that it fits my frame. And the frame is a picture frame from the Dollar Tree. I thought about adding bones because I had some extra ones around the frame, but I didn't like the way that looked, so I'm just keeping the plain very simple. This is probably even easier than any of the other ones, but I'm taking the back out, putting the little picture in, and that's all there is to this DIY, but it's such a cute little addition to the tray and I love it. And to go with the Hocus Pocus Broom Company, we need some brooms. So I am making brooms using some of those leftover bones. And I'm just choosing a few different sizes. And then I am using some jute rope for the bottom part of the broom. And I'm hot gluing it. And then I'm also wrapping around some jute rope at the top so it looks like, you know, it's been handmade, the broom. And that's all there is to this one. After I create those brooms, I hot glue them together so they're a stack of three so they don't fall over. You don't have to hot glue them, but one is too little, I think, to have unless you have a mini tray. So I thought if I glue them together, it'll look a little bit more substantial. So here they are, and they look so cute and adorable. I love them. This is another simple one. I saw this from the Schwoven's Nest. Sandra had made, but I forget what she made. It was, I think, something for Easter, maybe? And she used these wood ornaments as well, and she glued a whole bunch of them together to make kind of like a chunky wood decor piece. So that's what I'm doing. I'm using all but one of these hats that come in a pack of 8, and I am hot gluing them all together, and then I'm going to be painting them in a purple color. Now my purple color is really light, so I just add a little bit of black to it to make it a bit of a darker purple, and then I add some ribbons to cover the hole, and I have a nice chunky little wood decor piece for $1 versus, you know, the 5-6 bucks that it would be somewhere else. And you can see these little chunky wood decor pieces in a lot of the trays that you find on Pinterest. So this is one way that you can make that yourself for probably less than buying it somewhere. So here it is, all completed again. Very, very cute. For this DIY, I'm using these square beads from the Dollar Tree that I'm going to be spray painting in black using the Tremclad spray paint. And I am also using one of the witch's hats that I saved from the package and some jute, not jute twines. Yeah, some twine. And I've painted the witch's hat in purple and I've attached it to one end of the beads and then I attached a tassel to the other. I didn't record my I didn't record myself doing the tassel because I had hit record and it didn't record. That's why. A very simple reason. I maybe I thought I hit record but I didn't. I use my phone, so sometimes I'll push the button and then I think it's done it and I don't look. I mean, it's completely my fault for not paying attention, I guess. But anyway, I just wrapped it around a few times around my hand and then I cut the bottom part. You guys have seen tassels made before. If you would like a tassel tutorial, I can do one for my next DIY. But anyway, I attached that to one end and then the witch's hat to the other, and it's just a cute little addition to the tray. And last but not least, this DIY includes all of the things that you see in the picture, except for the square beads. I used that for the DIY before. But I'm using these jack-o'-lanterns and the cats. They're all the wood cutouts from the Dollar Tree. And I had spray painted the cats black, the jack-o'-lanterns white. And then I'm attaching everything to some twine. And I'm doing white, white bead, black bead, white jack-o'-lantern. Then I start with black bead, white bead, black hat, and then I continue until I finish, and then I add some bows to them, and that's it. And the garland is done, and it's cute. Awesome for Halloween. I have it displayed on my fireplace, but like I said, you could use it anywhere. You could, actually, I didn't say that, did I? The reason I had made it is because I thought that you could use it either, like if you have your tray displayed on a round table, you could have it hanging off of there. You could have it kind of like around your tray if you wanted to, or you could have it on your fireplace. So it's not a tray decor, but it could be if you wanted it to kind of enhance your tray. That was my thinking for that. I may wind up doing that when I do my home tour, so you might see that if you pop over to my home channel, but if you don't, then I would love to see what you do. So maybe you can share with me over on Instagram. So I do have Instagram and I do have Pinterest. So if you're interested in any of these, all of these were inspired by things that I had found on Pinterest. I have three Halloween boards that you can check out over on Pinterest. Now this sadly concludes all of my Halloween DIYs. I am switching over to Christmas next weekend. As sad as it makes me to be done with Halloween because I love Halloween, I also love Christmas, so I'm really excited to start Christmas. And the Hallmark movies are starting on the 22nd, so I got to start my DIYs as well. I'm sure you know this, but in case you don't, when you are putting the twine through the holes in the beads, some of the holes are smaller than the others, and your rope might fray. So what you want to do is you want to either attach a needle or even like a toothpick or something that you can kind of tie to the edge of the rope, and so you can pull it through. Like I said, I'm sure you know what this is. Even if you just took some tape and you just taped it at the end and then pulled it through, that would work as well. It's just to make it a little bit more firm so you can pull it through. That's all. And I want to thank Sonia for hosting this collab. If you guys don't know, Sonia's my sister, and I think she's pretty amazing. So I love all of her DIYs, not just because she's my sister, but I also think she's pretty talented. So make sure you check out her over at Domestic Diva DIY. She's got a lot of channels. She's got a home channel, cooking channel, DIY channel. She's got a vlogging channel. So check her out. She's really talented and pretty amazing. So make sure to check her out. Check out the playlist. There's going to be lots of inspiration on there. It's all Pinterest inspired DIYs. So it'll be great. And let's get back to this DIY. So here I am just adding some ribbon there from the Dollar Tree that I've just cut into little slits and then tied together and attached to the twine, and here it is all finished. It looks pretty darn cute. So as promised, I will have a display of all of these on a tray, and here it is all lit up in the dark, looking pretty spooky. I'm not sure that it'll stay this way. I just wanted to show you how you could display it, give you some ideas, but I am really loving all of these DIYs. And I've added a little bit of extra fillers in there, like that pumpkin that I DIY'd and the hands from the Dollar Tree and this little skeleton.
So here are the things that I think I'm gonna be using. Excuse the Kleenex. I'm not sure that I'll use all of this stuff, and I may add some fillers like rice or polyfill, whatever you have on hand. So I'm going to be making 3 different flower pot gnomes that are Halloween themed. So one will hopefully be a witch one will be kind of like with the Day of the Dead, and then another one will just be like a Halloween themed gnome with, you know, maybe like this spider and this for his hat. I haven't completely decided how I'm going to make them. I kind of saw an idea on Pinterest and on Facebook, and I'm building off of that. I think it was just like an Etsy buy or something that I saw on Pinterest or on Facebook. I'm not sure, but I kind of got the idea, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to combine kind of all the things that I saw, and I'm going to try and make them out of these flower pots. I did see like a flower pot gnome that was like a spring theme, so I'm like, oh, okay, I can make that Halloween theme, but the instructions for that one weren't the best, so I'm gonna hopefully make a better one for you. I only have this fur for his for their beards, so I'm also going to use the mop, which is a great thing to use as well. I thought I had white fur, but I don't, so the mop will help. Then I just have some socks. Instead of painting these, I think I'm going to use the socks. I might wind up painting them. So we'll kind of see as we go and take it from there. I like to show you my process because sometimes when you think of you're doing a thing one way, then you change it halfway through. So this just kind of gives you some ideas. Like I have different little decorations to put on them, and we'll see what we wind up using. I have these little beads. I can't remember if these are from Dollarama or the Dollar Tree, so it's one of the dollar stores. Most of the stuff is from Dollar Tree. These hats are from Dollarama, but they're $1.75. So our Dollar Tree is $1.50 now. You may be able to find them there. They're like little hair clips. May be able to find them there. If not, I'm sure whatever dollar store you have, you'll have these in there. And the rest of the stuff I know is from Dollar Tree. Maybe this fur might be from Dollarama too. I know Dollar Tree has them, but like you got to get them when they have them because they don't have them all the time. All right, so let's get started.
So this first gnome is the witch gnome that I'm making, and I'm just using one of the medium-sized flower pots, the clay ones. I believe they come in a pack of 2. The little ones come in a pack of 3, and then the big one I think is just 1. And I am wrapping this one in this sock, and it's one of those kind of fuzzy snuggly socks from the Dollar Tree, and I've got a pair, so I'm just going to wrap it in there. This helps so I don't have to paint it. And then I'm going to attach the hat, and I will be attaching the fur beard, and I'll show you how I do that. But before I show you, So I did want to just kind of show you guys this glue gun. I was sent this by this company, Monvict, to test out and try it out. And I want to show you the gun. So the package came with a glue gun, and you can plug it in and you charge it for, well, not charge, you plug it in, and once it heats up, then it'll work for a few minutes unplugged, which is kind of neat if you need to have it be cordless for whatever amount of time that you need it for. And it also came with these glue sticks in the package and some finger protectors, which, as you all know, if you watch my videos, you know I need these. So it was a great little package for 45 Canadian. Not a bad deal at all, and a really good glue gun. So I'll show you how I use it in this video, but really good glue gun. Make sure you try it out. I will post a link in my description. I can't even talk. In my description below, I'll post a link to the Amazon for you to buy it, where you can buy it on Amazon. They do have it in the States as well, so you can find that in the States as well. Okay, so let's get back to the project. What I also like about the glue gun is that it has its own little stand. So there you go, it stands on its own. That's pretty nice, because a lot of the other ones do not stand up on their own. So that's kind of neat. So anyway, as you saw, I wrapped this in my sock. This is the pot. And now I'll just be attaching the hat to it. Now with the hat, it had this little clip because it is like a hair clip. And I wasn't going to take it off. I was just going to hot glue it to there. And then I didn't like the way it was sitting because it made it kind of sit up a little bit because of that clip. So instead of poking a hole and clipping it on, which you could do, I just ripped off the little clip and I hot glued it to the pot. And then I just wanted to kind of see where I wanted the nose to sit. So I just kind of tested out my bead to see where it would sit. And I decided that just right under the hat would be perfect. So before I glued on the bead for the nose, obviously I have to do the beard. So I'm doing that here. I apologize for this angle. I think I need to change how I record, because some of these things are a little bit better if I'm doing them from the side. You know, even after doing this for a year and a bit, the editing and recording part, I'm still learning a lot about. So it's okay. It's a trial and error. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just cutting out the little fur, measuring it out to what size I need, and then I'm just kind of wrapping it around, not the entire gnome, although you could do the entire gnome, but because I like to use these in tray decor, and most of my trays are kind of like towards a wall or something like that in the back, I don't really need to cover the back, and I just don't want to waste more materials than I have to. But if you were wanting to sell these, or if you wanted to give it as a gift, I would wrap the whole thing around in the little beard, because I think it would look kind of neat. But anyway, or make sure, at least if you're not wrapping it in the little beard, depending on what you're going for with the gnome, but if you're not doing that, then at least make sure the back is like, it all kind of edges and lines up nicely in the back, so that way it doesn't look unfinished. So I attached the beard so it kind of flows in like the front of the gnome. It looks like the sides and the front is covered. And then I attached the bead for the nose just under the hat at the top of the beard. So if you have something that kind of sticks, like you almost want the hat to look like the beard is under the hat. So make sure you either have it up all the way to the top, or you glue your hat down after. And then that's all there is to it. And then once you glue everything on, you kind of want to look and see if there's any like bald patches or anything like that, and you fix it up accordingly. And like I said, that's all there is to it. Here he is, or she, whatever you want to call. Here they are, all finished. I think it turned out super cute, and it's a super cute gnome. So that was super easy. Then here's the second one. This is the one that I'm using, the two flower pots, the smaller one and the larger one. And I am using a white sock for these. And again, it was a pair of socks that I got from the Dollar Tree for, well, it was a buck 25 when I bought them. Now it's a buck 50, but inexpensive. And I'm just wrapping the bottom pot in the white sock, not the top pot. And this will be my body for the gnome, and then the top will be the hat of the gnome. So I went ahead and I hot glued the smaller pot to the larger pot as the hat. And then I went and I used, for the beard, instead of using the fur, I used that mop. So it's just the mop head from the Dollar Tree. And I glued the little strings to the like hat portion to the small pot and had them hang off. So I just kind of measured so that they would hang nicely on the bottom. I've done it where I've cut them too short, so just make sure you like cut them a little bit longer, and you can always cut them down if you need to versus the other way around. And then I wrapped the small pot with that bat ribbon from the Dollar Tree. You can do anything you want for this, but I thought this would be a neat little thing to do. And I made it look like a pointy hat. So what I did was I wrapped one band of the ribbon around, hot glued it, then I did another small band and then another small band. So there's 3 layers of it to give it kind of the image of a cone. There are templates you can find online for the hats and for everything, and then you can sew things, but you know, why sew if you can hot glue things? It's just a lot quicker, in my opinion, and a little bit easier. Not everyone has a sewing machine, not everyone is capable of sewing, all of that stuff, or not capable. Everyone is capable, but not everyone knows how to sew. So this is just quick and easy and a fun little thing to do. So once I had the hat all ready to go, I then took each of the little mop strings and I divided them. So you just want to make sure that you don't, like I unwound them. You just want to make sure you don't go all the way to the top, otherwise you're going to unwind the whole thing and it'll come apart. So you just kind of go almost to the top, and you can either twirl them counterclockwise or you can separate them with your fingers. It's up to you. But I did that with each of the strings to make it look a lot fuller. I also then hot glued the bead as his nose, and again I measured that to be just under the tip of the hat, and that's all there is to this gnome. It is pretty simple, again maybe a little bit more time consuming. I did wind up adding a little bit of a decorative little string thing from the Dollar Tree just to the tip of the hat. You can add a bat if you have a little one, or a spider, or anything you have, or nothing, or a bead, whichever you'd like. But here he is all finished. I love the way he turned out. I also added a small spider to the side of the gnome as well, and that came off of one of the flowers that come for Halloween from the Dollar Tree. It was just like a little spider. And last but not least is another gnome that I created. Again, for this one I'm using one little flower pot. It's the medium-sized one, not the tiny one. And I am wrapping it in one of those fuzzy socks because it was a pair, so this was left over. And this one I stuffed the top of the hat a little bit with rice. after I did it, I figured I probably shouldn't have done it. It was a little bit too heavy. I just wanted it to look more like a cone shape. You could put a little styrofoam comb in there, or you could even take a piece of cardboard and wrap it into a comb, like just not like super thick cardboard, but like maybe cardstock to make it look more spiky if you wanted to. But I did rice. You can do rice, just know that it'll make it kind of heavy. So just keep that in mind. And what I did was I measured out how long I needed for the body, and then I tied a knot and I put that much rice in there. Once I filled the rice in there and tied that knot, then I went and I wrapped the pot in the sock and I added this fabric. It's kind of like the Day of the Dead fabric. That's what it reminds me of from the Dollar Tree, but I really like it and I've wanted to incorporate that for quite some time now, so I'm glad I got to incorporate it into my decor. And I'm just wrapping the hat part of it in this. And again, I kind of measure roughly how much I need. I cut off a piece that long. And then what I did was I just I folded it over and I hot glued a part of the part that I cut just because it wasn't very straight. Could have used my cutter, but I forgot about it, to be honest with you, because I have a fabric cutter with like a little mat so it cuts straight. But I was just doing this quick. I could just do a quick cut. So usually when I cut a lot, I use it, but I just did a quick cut. And then what I did was I wrapped the fabric all around the hat to make it a little bit pointy. I played around with this a little bit. That's why I said if you add the rice, it makes it a little bit heavy. So it's a little bit harder to do, but I wound up doing it. And again, I kind of wrapped and wrapped and wrapped around in layers to make it look like it went into a cone shape. So once I had the hat kind of the way I wanted it to be, I then went and I hot glued the beard on. You could hot glue the beard on before if you wanted to. I kind of did it after the hat because, like I said, the rice was a bit heavy. It kept on kind of popping off. So I hot glued all of this together and then I wound up using one more piece of ribbon. I just had a purple ribbon, Halloween ribbon that I bought last year, and I wrapped it around the base of the hat to make it stick better. But again, if you don't wind up filling it with the rice, it'll be a little bit better. And I did the same method for the beard as I did with the previous gnome, where I hot glued the mop strings and then I separated them. So then after I got the beard to the way I wanted it to be, I wound up gluing that ribbon around, as I said, around the base, and then I hot glued the little bead as his nose. I just want to say this hot glue gun is pretty impressive. It doesn't drip. It's quite strong, so it heats up the glue quite nice. It has two different speeds that you can turn it on to, like two different heats that you can turn it on to. I had it on the higher heat. And once you unplug it, it lasts for a good 3 minutes where you're hot gluing. I mean, depending on how much you're using it, obviously, but it lasts, quite a bit of time, so it can let you do a project for a good decent amount of time, I think. I'm really impressed with this hot glue gun, to be honest with you. The finger protectors are not as great as some of my other ones that I have, but the actual gun is very, very good. So be sure to check it out if you're shopping for a new hot glue gun. And as I said, they did send this off to me to try out. So, and I tried it out and I really liked it. So anyway, here he is, all finished. I've glued everything on, made him sturdy, and made him look awesome, or her, as I said, whichever way you want to put it. And I did forget to mention that I did add like those little bones that I showed you at the beginning of the video. They're styrofoam bones. I just hot glued 3 of them together and I added them to the tip of the hat just to kind of go with the theme of the skulls and the bones. And I thought it added a little bit of decor to the top of the hat. So here he is. So let me know what you think of this one, all finished. And here are all 3 of them. Let me know which one you like the best. Do you guys like decorating with gnomes or do you not like gnomes? Let me know what you think and leave me a comment below. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed and have a great day and happy fall, I guess, even though it's a little bit early. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Using some rocks to create 3 different kind of Halloween decor DIYs. So I'll be using these rocks, that little succulent that I showed you, that's from the Dollar Tree, some spray paint, some pipe cleaners, and a pot. So the spray paint that I'm using is this heirloom white. You can totally use any kind of white that you have. That's the one that I had on hand. And so I spray paint all of the rocks, and I'm also using 3 beads. They're wood beads for these DIYs, and they're all in like a theme of eyeballs. So very inexpensive because the rocks you can either get from your garden or from the Dollar Tree, and everything else is from the Dollar Tree as well. So again, I've spray painted these rocks and I am just going to draw some eyeballs on them. And I'm using a black Sharpie to outline the eye, and then the middle part of the eye I'm also using just a black Sharpie, and then I'm using paint for around the eye. So you can use whatever colors you'd like. I also use a red Sharpie to kind of have like bloodshot eyes. So again, really easy, really simple DIYs. They're not even really DIYs, just kind of like fun little Halloween decor things to do. We're also going to be doing these with my boys, so I thought it would be a nice little thing to add to throughout my home for decor, and I thought I'd share it with you as well. I love to do intricate DIYs as well, like something that's a little bit more in depth, something that's a little bit maybe more creative. But sometimes it's fun just to do something really simple, really quick, and something that you can even do with the kiddos if you wanted to. My kids love painting rocks, so this was a little fun activity that I thought we could do together as well. I wound up doing these myself, but we are doing a set this weekend they like to have themed decor in their rooms as well. They're very cute. They get right into mummy's decorating and Halloween and all that stuff, so it's really nice to have that with them. So for the paint, I'm using 4 different colors. I'm using 2 different shades of green and 2 different shades of blue. And obviously you can use any colors that you'd like. This is just ones that I decided to go with. I really like the look of them. And what I'm doing is I'm applying the lighter shade of the green and then I apply the darker shade and then vice versa, and same with the blue. And the top coat that I apply, I don't wait for the bottom one to dry. I just kind of dab it on so they kind of blend together, and to me they kind of look like eyes then. And I do this for all of the rocks and the wooden beads because I will be using all of them for my decor. So like I said, I'm doing this for each and every one of them. And then except for the few rocks that I leave to draw like bloodshot eyes. So again, I just add a red Sharpie and I kind of do my own little design for bloodshot eyes. You could use paint if you wanted to. I just thought it would be easier with a Sharpie. I did not record myself drawing the veins, like the bloodshot veins for the eyes. So here's just a little clip of what they look like. And then I went ahead and I spray painted this pot. So this will be what I'm going to use some of those eyeballs for. Before I spray painted, I added some hot glue to the sides to make it look like, I don't know, like it was like spilling stuff. I did wind up not doing anything with that, but it just added a bit of texture to the pot. But my idea was that I was gonna spray paint it and then do a little bit of a design. But I kind of did it off, and I should have done it a different way. I should have spray painted it first, and then added the hot glue, and then painted like very lightly with it. But I kind of gave up on that idea midway through. But you can, that's how you kind of add a little bit of texture to your pots if you wanted to. And then I used 4 pipe cleaners. Well, I used 12 of them, but 4 in each of these stems, which these things that I'm creating to make stems for this little pot that I spray painted. And I am just kind of twirling them into one stem so that they're a little bit thicker. You can, if you want it to be a little bit more sturdy, you can add just like a little wooden dowel and wrap them around the wooden dowel and then paint them. It'll make them a little bit more sturdy, but then they will also be kind of straight instead of kind of windy and stuff like that. Um, so then I painted them with some green spray paint, and then I added a little dowel to the bottom so that I could put them in my pot. I only had the wet foam, floral foam, so it doesn't like poke as nicely, so I use that wooden dowel so it wouldn't fall apart. And I just put these in there as best as I could. Then I'm going to be attaching the wooden beads to the top of these so that it looks like instead of the flower, it's an eyeball. And then I wind up, because they're a little bit flimsy, the wooden dowels are obviously heavier than the pipe cleaners. So I'm just wrapping them kind of all together and then making it like a shorter bouquet. You'll see what I mean after I finish doing that. I'll show you what I've done. But you will have to, if you're using kind of floral foam, you might have to do something to poke a hole. So something like a wooden dowel or something a little bit thicker, because the pipe cleaners on their own won't be enough. Just at the bottom though, you don't have to attach it to the top unless you want straight stems. I wanted them to kind of look like crazy flimsy stems. I didn't hot glue the beads onto there because the pipe cleaners were thick enough that I could just put it into the little hole that was in the bead. But if you don't have a hole, or if you want it to be a little bit more secure, you could add a bit of hot glue in there. And then I added some deer moss to the bottom of the pot just to cover that floral foam and cover if there's any of the dowel showing through or anything like that. And I adjusted everything so that it wouldn't be flimsy. And that's all there was to this guy. Really easy, really fun to make, and kind of spooky, but not like super gory, because like I said, my kids are still little, so I don't want to make it too scary. So for this next decor item, I'm not doing much. I'm just adding this green plate. If you have any Halloween themed plates, this would be great too. I thought I had some, but I can't find anything. We did a whole kitchen remodel, so everything is kind of everywhere. So I added just this kind of spooky little, it's a tablecloth, and I just kind of put it all together with a little bit of the fake webbing, and I put the
eyeballs on there, so it looks like a bowl of eyeballs. They also have these cups at the Dollar Tree that I saw last year. I don't know if they have them this year, that have like, they look like it's a hand holding a cup. They're kind of spooky. You could fill it up with these as well. Just a cute little decor piece. And I live by the airport, so just bear with the noise. Yes, it's a small airport, so it just happens once in a while, but it's pretty loud when it happens. So anyway, here's what it looks like. Great little piece. You can put it on like a console table, a cup of eyeballs, or a plate or a bowl of eyeballs, not eyebrows. My goodness, I cannot talk. Anyway, super easy, this one. As long as once you've painted your eyeballs, that's all there is to it. And I don't know about you guys, but I like to add eyeballs even to my trays and stuff like that. So having these little guys with all the different shapes is kind of neat. And then for the last one, this is like even easier than this one, or just as easy as this one. I just took that little succulent that I showed you at the beginning, and I just hot glued one of the eyeballs onto it. I just kind of picked one that I thought would fit nicest onto the succulent, and instead of having like the middle part of the succulent, it's an eyeball. Again, like a cute little plant theme. It could go great in a tray or anywhere, like if you wanted to make like a little, like a trio of these three. If you did it in like a bowl of eyebrows, a little succulent, and a little plant, it's a cute little DIY. So anyway, let me know what you think of these. I thought they were super cute, super easy, very inexpensive to make. Could just be stuff that you have around the house. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment below, and we'll see you next week. I hope that next week I'll be able to do something a little bit more intricate. It'll be either next week or the week after that I do my Sanderson Sisters Hocus Pocus themed DIY, because the movie is coming out and I love to add those kinds of decor items into my collection. It's a little bit more time consuming to make, so it just depends how much time I have this week. But either or, I'll make those. I have 2 more videos that I think I'm going to make for Halloween, and then I'll be done. I'll show you some of my home reno stuff. And then in October, I will be shifting to Christmas, which seems kind of scary, but if you wanted to get stuff done, then you need to have it done for Christmas. You start decorating, sometime in November, so you want to get them all done by November, hopefully. And the stores start having stuff already, so you want to be kind of in with the stores, and so that way you can go get your stuff and get things going so it doesn't sell out. Off with these items from the Dollar Tree. So we've got this kind of coffin, we have the pallets and the little fence, as well as a ghost that I painted for another DIY in this video. And again, it's all from the Dollar Tree. The ghost was in a pack of 8. And then I've got these little beds, which came from the dollhouse from the Dollar Tree. If you look at my previous video, I made some haunted houses out of it. I've got the little wood blocks, some bones, and some hands, all from the Dollar Tree. And then I have leftover little pieces of wood, and those are from a pick, but it could be from a stir stick or any kind of thin little piece of wood, or even cardboard, whatever you have. So I start off with painting, and I need to paint the coffin, kind of go for like a black coffin with some espresso brown and silver and cashmere, and a little bit of white. You'll see I kind of do a mishmash of things. And then I also wipe it off with a paper towel. Once that is finished, I use the same combination of colors to paint over the picket fence. These are new that I've seen this year at Dollar Tree here in Canada. Now maybe we've had it, our location didn't have it.
And again, I use the same mixture. I wipe it off. I wipe it off a little bit more with this one, and I use a bit more brown just so that it looks a little bit different than this coffin. And so here I am dry brushing. I have painted both sides, so I'm just dry brushing on the different colors, getting in between the crevices, using a thinner paintbrush, just kind of doing some final touch-ups. So once I finish with that, I do the same thing with the palette. Now for the palette, I add mostly this cashmere brown, but I am using the same brush that I didn't clean off, so it's going to give an illusion that it's a little bit of a darker brown. And again, you do whatever you like. I'm going to be covering this up anyway a little bit, so it just depends what you're looking to what look you're going for. Once I paint the palette, I also go ahead and paint these blocks, and these are just to give some height to my coffins. And I also go ahead and paint the bones. I'm just using that mishmash of colors over there. I'm not adding more or anything like that, basically just using up the paint. And it's just so that it doesn't look so light. And I'm only painting it on the sides and a few of the tops because I will be making, like I said, a little riser. So once that is done and dry, I go ahead and I assemble the piece. So I start with hot gluing the coffin, and I just kind of stick it in between the little slats in the palette and hot glue it there as well, just so it stays better. I put quite a bit of hot glue on both sides. Then I add the picket fences. Now the picket fences I put on the side of the palette so that I have a nice and good place to hot glue them. And I just put them in the corner. And now I did see this picture on Pinterest kind of like this, so that was my inspiration. But I think they did it a little bit different. Well, they used a completely different background. So anyway, I want to give it a little bit of dimension. So I am just sticking them to the sides. And then I have gone ahead and I've spray painted those little beds black. And I will assemble those so that I can put them in the little graveyard. I also put together the little risers and I glue them onto where the coffins will, or sorry, the tombstones will go. I think I kept on calling them coffins, but they're tombstones. And so that way that is ready to go. For the coffins, I'm just using my little cutter. It's a little bit out of frame, but to cut the little pieces of wood to size so they fit the so-called tombstone. You'll see what I mean. Because I'm putting it in the back. Thought I would use the front, but it looks too much like a bed. So I'm going to use the back, and I cut it all to size, and then I add a little bit of extra hot glue on top so that way it looks like it's curved a little bit. Then I go ahead and I just paint it using that mishmash of colors so that way it kind of matches everything there. And I write using a little bit of black paint. I write RIP, so rest in peace, on the little tombstones. Now I wind up gluing them before I write them, but that's okay. Probably if you're smart, you're going to do it the other way, but you know, I got ahead of myself. And then I also added RIP to the top of the big coffin, and I hot glued the ghost to there as well. Now, what I didn't realize was that my camera stopped recording, so I did put Mod Podge at the bottom of the palette, and I just like sprinkled some deer moss to give it a look of a little bit of grass, and I hot glued that little skull and the hand and the bones. So I just cut it off, but I just kind of added everything. I did cut the fingers off of that hand so that it's a little bit smaller. Let me know what you think. I think it turned out super duper duper cute. So the next DIY is also fairly easy, and again, from the Dollar Tree. You don't need a ton of supplies. I'm starting off with those ghosts from the Dollar Tree. They're like the ornaments. So these are slightly different than the other one that you saw, but they also come in a pack of 8. So I am just painting all of them white. For whatever reason, the footage is missing. So anyway, I have the Happy Easter sign that I used from a different project. You can get these signs at the dollar store every season. They have them. I just painted it out white a long time ago, and I dry brushed it with black. Then I have the little frames from the Dollar Tree, and I just attached the ghost to these frames, and I just clipped them on. So that's it. Nothing too spectacular to it. Then I took a ribbon from the Dollar Tree and I wrapped it around the sign, and then I hot glued the picture frames to it, leaving a little bit of space so the ribbon would show a tiny bit through, and then I tied a bow to the top of the sign, and that's all there is to it. Now, sorry, I did also take off the backing from the frame so that way it didn't have that, and I took off those little things that I added to give interest to the piece just because they were creating different heights, so I didn't want that. I also wound up just adding a little bit of black to the frames as well. So I just dry brushed some black on it just to give it a little bit more of a spook factor, even though it's not a super spooky DIY, but I wanted it all to blend in with that ribbon. So here it is all finished. Let me know what you think. I think it turned out pretty cute. It's gonna probably sit on my fireplace, I think, downstairs. But anywhere it'll add a little bit of interest. On to the next DIY. So this next one frustrated me quite a bit. I started off with 8 of these witches hats and a ribbon. I got this ribbon from the Dollar Tree. Not the Dollar Tree, sorry. I've had this ribbon, but you do have this ribbon at the Dollar Tree. And I just soaked it in some coffee just to make it look a little bit dirty. Then I had these little pieces of paper. Now, sorry, this isn't strictly from the Dollar Tree. I got these for free from Benjamin Moore Supplier. They're wallpaper samples, so they gave that free to me. Now, you could use any kind of paper. They have craft paper, like scrapbook paper at the Dollar Tree, so you could use any of those. They have them all the time. Or even the calendar pieces, whatever you wanted. You could even print something off or use wrapping paper if you like that as well, or tissue paper. Now, I'm using these. I'm hot gluing 4 of the witches' hats together to give them some thickness. And then I tried to Mod Podge the wallpaper samples and it didn't work, so I wound up using Mod Podge and hot glue. And then I sanded down the pieces after I cut them around and sanded. I didn't show you the video because I was really frustrated with it, so I didn't record it because it would have just been not the best video. So what I did was I put the bigger pieces, as you can see here, on Mod Podging it, and then I wound up cutting around as much as I could. Then I even peeled back a little bit. Some spots I peeled off too much, which is okay. Then I hot glued whatever came off and I sanded everything down. I did use 4 pieces of paper, so I used it on both sides of the witch's hats because I'm intending to put them in a tray, and then I wanted both sides to be decorated. I did let the Mod Podge sit for a couple of hours, but it still didn't stick properly. That's why I wound up having to use the hot glue. So after I got everything off, I put that ribbon around, but I'll show you kind of what it looked like before. I used some of that brown paint to dry brush all around and the edges as well, and it kind of gave them like an aged look. And then I sanded again, and I sanded around the corners and everywhere, and I used a pretty coarse sandpaper. It's just what I had on hand. Then the ribbon I took and I cut in half, and I tied it around like twice, and then made a little knot / ribbon, and then I did it again on the other side, so you'll see what I mean here. Now I did, like I said, soak that ribbon in some coffee. It didn't make it fully brown everywhere, but it did give it like a little bit of a dirty aged look, which is kind of what I love doing all the time. It's my favorite kind of way to decorate. And I just put them on just above the rim of the hat, the little bow, and they'll look great in a tray, just like a little addition. You can even make like a little riser for them if you wanted to, and kind of hot glue it to the bottom. Just depends what you want to do. I usually put mine on little wood round risers, and then that way, just because my tray has a bigger lip, so that's just what I do. And then, like I said, I made little bows. So they did turn out pretty cute, but it was a really frustrating DIY. Now, if I just had maybe used regular paper, they might have wound up looking a little bit better or a little bit easier to work with, but I still like the way they looked with the wallpaper. Now here's the next DIY. If you hear any kind of yelling or screaming, that is just my kids getting ready for bed, and that's what they sound like. They get really hyper. So anyway, this one, because I lost some of that footage with the painted ghosts, I did the same thing. I painted 3 ghosts white, and then I took a frame from the Dollar Tree. This is just their basic frames. It is an 8x10. And then I put a ribbon through the holes of the ghosts, and I wrapped the ribbon around and hot glued it to the back. Now, before I did anything with the frame, with the ghosts, I did wrap the kind of the cardboard backing of the frame in black vinyl, just because I wanted it to be black, and I was afraid if I painted it, it might kind of, sometimes it crumbles up, like it kind of curls up, so I didn't want that happening. So I just wrapped it in a black vinyl. It is a little bit shinier than I would like it to be, and some of the bubbles were showing through, but once I finished it, it looked pretty nice. The ghosts, originally I was going to use a different kind of rope, but then I wound up going with the purple ribbon. The purple ribbon is from the Dollar Tree as well. Now, like I said, I hot glued it to the back. I've played around with it a little bit to get it to sag a little bit, but not too much. So you'll have to play around depending on how tight you make the ribbon, what length you cut, and how loose you want them to be. Kind of like how saggy you want them to be. Then I also got this spooky sign, which is from the Dollar Tree, and I painted that white as well. And I put it all back in the frame, and there you have it. Cute little DIY, simple. So this next DIY is still easy, but a little bit more involved. Well, it just took a little bit more time. So I bought this book, kind of fake book from the Dollar Tree. It looks like a book, but it's kind of like that press board or whatever. Then I'm using one of these eyes from the Dollar Tree. Comes in like a pack of 6. And a pack of these kind of spiders, snakes, little bug type of things. And I am also using a pipe cleaner. So the first thing that I am doing is I am cutting the eyeball in half so that I can glue the bottom part to the book. I am using an X-Acto knife, which works a little bit. I wound up just poking a hole, and then I use that little poking thing for weeding with the Cricut. I use that to poke another hole in there and pull, and then I kind of use my fingers to just rip the bottom part off. It doesn't have to be even, so I just needed the bottom part off somehow. It does look like it has a little thing that you could like kind of twist it and it would come off, but even like putting the X-Acto knife trying to like cut the glue, it just wouldn't. So I just wound up poking a hole and ripping off parts of the bottom. And the parts that didn't want to come off, I used a mallet to help it come off. It's really funny. If my husband sees me doing these videos, sometimes he's like, no wonder you hurt yourself all the time. You do such silly things. So anyway, I'm sticking on all these bugs. I'm going to hot glue them and snakes to the book in just like a random pattern. I am recreating the Hocus Pocus book, the magic book of spells from Hocus Pocus. So that's kind of my idea here. I've looked up the images of the book to get it to kind of be the same. I am adding this pipe cleaner around the eye so it kind of looks like the lock to latch the book closed. And I make it just into kind of like a key shape. And I also have this little rat that came in like a pack of bugs too. And I am attaching that as well. And just these little foam shapes, round shapes, just to the book as well. It's just any random pattern. And then as you can see, the snakes that I'm putting on the side, I'm actually going to cut them off so that way they look like they're wrapping around the book. They just were like a hard plastic that you couldn't wrap around. And I'm using hot glue to attach all of this. Once everything is set and dry, I go ahead and I use some tissue paper and I Mod Podge it on to the book. And I'm doing that to give the book kind of like a leathered look. I watched plenty of videos of other people making these books and they used some cool stuff, but it was kind of expensive stuff. So this is all, like I said, Dollar Tree. And you may, if you have kiddos and that like bugs, maybe you can, take a bug or two and a snake or two if they have these Dollar Tree toys on hand and just use that. So I made a little hole where the eye is, and like I said, I Mod Podged everything to the book and let it set overnight. Once the Mod Podge set into place, I went ahead and I ripped little pieces and off where the tissue paper was sticking up a bit, because I didn't do bit by bit for tissue paper. I just did the whole thing. I had to kind of rip some pieces off. So maybe if I were to do this again, I would rip individual pieces and Mod Podge them on. But live and learn. So maybe you can take from my mistakes and do it a little bit better next time. So the Mod Podge, I just added even more than on top. So I put it on the bottom and then I added more of the Mod Podge on top, ripping again little bits here and there to expose the snakes, the eye, the key, and all of that stuff. And then after that set, again, I wound up painting. So I let that dry, probably not as long as I should have. I let the first part dry longer. But I went and I used some black paint, gold paint, cashmere paint, and a little bit of old white or antique white, warm white, that's what it's called. And I just kind of mixed them all and I did bit by bit of each thing and dabbed on my paint onto the book. So I let the book dry on top of the garbage can on top of a clear mat, and I was going to come back to it the day after. And I did come back to it the day after. The day after was garbage day. My husband had decided that it was garbage and put it in the garbage. He wasn't sure what it was and thought, well, it's on the garbage can, must be garbage. Speaks to what it looked like, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe his taste. I don't know. But I wound up going downstairs and I wasn't going to craft. And I thought, maybe I can just put a little bit of paint on it, have it set, and then see if I need to do anything else. So I went and I'm looking for it, and I couldn't find it. And I'm thinking, I know that I left it here to try. So I checked in the other room, thinking, okay, maybe I moved it. I couldn't find it. And then I saw the garbage can was empty. I said, oh my gosh, he probably threw it out. So I went digging through the garbage. Thankfully, it was just in the bag where all of my craft garbage was. So my craft garbage is papers and wrappers and little bits of vinyl. So nothing gross. So I wound up finding it, and I mean it was in a garbage bag with other stuff, but everything was in individual bags, so wasn't super gross. It was still going through garbage, but I found it. I digged it out so that I could finish painting it. I was so mad at him. I said he's not allowed to go to my craft room anymore. He also threw my mat out as well, so that mat that I have underneath there. I know it's painted over and all that stuff, but I use it, so it was kind of funny. But he's not allowed to take out the garbage from my craft room anymore. So anyway, here it is when it is all painted. And it dried kind of like this, as you can see here. So it just needed a little bit more color. I wanted it to look like leather. The book in Hocus Pocus looks like a brown leather. So I added some espresso paint and a little bit of black. And I'm just going over top of it. Just because the black, no, I didn't add black. I'm lying to you. I'm just adding espresso. And then I'm just dabbing it on and dabbing a little bit off on the plate and dabbing it on to make it look like it's leather. I do wind up using black, but I use the black to make the snakes and the key, the lock, look like they have little stitches on them. So here it is all done. I did touch up the eye a little bit too. Let me know what you think. I added a little bit more black detail to the rat. I actually like the way it turned out quite a bit. It looks spooky, cute, looks like the book. Let me know what you guys think. I'm trying to zoom in so you can see all of the different textures. It does look like leather. It looks like a creepy, creepy book. And on to the final DIY, which is super duper easy. So you'll love this one and very inexpensive. So I bought one of these skulls and a solar lamp from the Dollar Tree. I took the bottom part of the lamp off and I cut a hole on top of the skull. I used an X-Acto knife and some scissors to do that. And then I wound up cutting little holes into the eyes of the skull, and it looks like it has a tooth that's missing. I also cut a hole in there. I wound up using an X-Acto knife and it wasn't doing the best work, so I grabbed a big kitchen knife and I did it with that. Again, when you watch me doing this, you probably fear that I'm going to cut my hand. I really need to be more careful because I am very accident prone. And I also wound up using some pliers just to get the little bits off because I needed to be able to fit the solar lamp in there, the bottom part of it. So, I mean, it really is easy. I could have used my scoring. I remembered now as I'm talking to you guys that I have a little scoring knife thing that I could have used, and I completely forgot that I have it. And then again, I used the big knife for the eyes and the tooth, and then I let it charge in the sun a little bit, and here's what it looks like when it is all lit up and done. Super duper easy and cute and a bit spooky. I really, really like this, and so inexpensive, so easy. You could do it as a little walkway to your house outside, and it would be expensive. So here are all of them done together. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're going to recreate some of these and if I've inspired you. So to start, I'm starting with just a jar, and I will be making a little ghost. So I'm starting with this jar. It was just a recycled jar and a mop head from the Dollar Tree. And what I'm going to be doing is attaching the mop head to the jar to create a ghost. And then I will add a little hat to it, and it'll be a super cute little ghost. So I am just using hot glue, and I am gluing it I'm gluing the bottom part of the mop to the top of the jar. And once that is all set, I go ahead and I use some foam to cut out eyes for the ghost. And then I use a little bit of orange material as well as this little bell from a set of styrofoam bells from the Dollar Tree. It could be any cone shape, just to add to the top of the ghost. And then I wrap it up in that orange fabric to give it a little Halloween hat. And what I did with the orange fabric is I just cut out a triangle. I kind of measured how much I thought I would need, just eyeballed it. I cut out a triangle, and then I just wrapped the triangle around the little part at the top to give it a cone shape. And that's all there is to it. This is a super duper easy ghost, and it's cute. I added a little light to the inside of the jar, and it lights up as well. My little guy really likes it, so it will make a cute little decoration. So the next DIY is also very easy. What I'm doing is I am using one of these candle holders from the Dollar Tree, as well as a skull head from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just attaching the skull head to the candle holder. And then I will be spray painting the entire thing black. Now you can obviously do any color that you want. I just love the black and purple dark themes for Halloween. Sometimes I like the kind of like that kind of brown theme like this skull head, but for this particular thing, I am spray painting it in black, and I always use this high heat spray paint because it dries really, really fast. I do prefer the matte one, but I just had the shiny one this time. And once I spray painted it and dried, I attached a little bit of Velcro. And I also went ahead and I spray painted just a little candle light, but one of those ones that battery operated. I spray painted the bottom black, and I attached this Velcro to the top of the skull, and then I attached the other part to the bottom of the candle. And that way I could attach the candle to the skull and turn it on and off whenever I wanted to. And it makes a cute little like candle holder, skull candle holder. I love the way it turned out. Let me know what you think. And here's the finished piece. So finally, the last DIY is another super easy one. So what I'm doing is I'm just using a little candlelight holder. Again, this is from the Dollar Tree. I had it just laying around. And one of these hands from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to be spray painting both of them again with this Tremclad high heat paint. And I'm spray painting them black. I contemplated spray painting sorry, I'm not spray painting it black. I'm spray painting the candle holder black, and the hand I'm spray painting in this kind of bronzish color because I wanted to give it a little bit of a kind of like a, I didn't want it gold. I wanted it like to look like an old hand. I don't know if that makes any sense, but this is what I'm doing. Kind of look like a dirty hand. So I lightly spray painted it. I didn't do like a full on 100% coverage because I did want the hand to look like it was kind of dirty. And then what I'm doing is I'm just hot gluing the hand to the little candlelight holder, and it'll make a nice little candle holder. So you can see there's a bit of a theme, a light theme to this video. And again, super duper easy, inexpensive. You could use any of the, like any kind of, oh my gosh, I can't even get my train of thought out. You could use any kind of little candle holder at the back, the base, even if you had like a little jar, you could hold that. You could use that as well. You don't have to have a candle holder that you purchased. And the Dollar Tree right now has a ton of these kind of skeleton kind of themed decorations, so you could use any of them to make candle holders, and they just make cute little decorations for Halloween. And again, you don't have to use real candles. You can use the little battery operated ones for it to be a little bit safer. So here it is, and I think it turned out really cute. Again, I put kind of two different things in there. I put one that flashes, and then I put a little battery operated one, so it just depends what you wanted to do. At the end, you'll see I used a real candle just to show you the difference, but I love the way all three of these turned out. Let me know what you guys think, whether you would like to try any of these, and if you have used any of these in the past in a different way, let me know what you did with them. I will probably be starting my decorating very, very soon. I know it's still August, but I love decorating for Halloween and I put lots of stuff out. So I kind of want to look at it for a long time because right after Halloween, I get right into Christmas. So let me know what you think of these. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Give me a comment, hit that notification bell, do all the things. I will have a new video out next week again, another Halloween themed one. So hopefully you stick around and watch that one as well. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great day. Stay safe, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I am making a tray cover or like a plate cover out of this bowl from the Dollar Tree. It's just a black bowl. It has some spiders and some other Halloween themed engravings on it, and just one of these skulls. And I'm just hot gluing the skull to the top of the bowl, and I'm also using a creepy cloth, and that's pretty much all there is to this DIY. It's super easy, but I'll show you how I made it just in case you're wondering, well, how exactly did you make it? I also used some of the creepy hands as well, all from the Dollar Tree, so very inexpensive and very easy to make. So here it is all finished. You can use any kind of tray or plate that you want. I used a charger, a gold charger from the Dollar Tree, and I put my clementines in there. But you can obviously use anything that you'd like. You can even use a pizza pan, that works as well. So just some food for thought for you. You can use anything, or even if you have an existing plate, you could use it. I just happen to like the combination of these colors. So let's move on to the next one. So this is another super easy DIY. All you need are these little glass lanterns from the Dollar Tree, or candle holders, whatever you want to call them. These solar lamps. Now I found pumpkin themed ones. You can do obviously anything that you'd like. If they don't have these at your Dollar Tree, you can use just the normal solar lights. They should still have them. I removed the top and bottom, I separated them, and then I hot glued the bottom to the bottom of the lantern, and I used some lids, the rings from the smallmouth jars, canning jars, and I spray painted those. But as you can see here, I did try to glue on the top part of the lantern, or the solar lamp, into the lantern. I used some extra glue just to attach the bottom part to make sure it's stuck, and then I used glue at the top of the lantern to glue down my rings. And then I just put the top part of the lantern in there without gluing it on because it stayed nice. And they actually turned out really, really cute. Here they are, all lit up with some light, and then now this is in the dark. They look super cute, and they'll be a great addition to anybody, either inside or outside. I've placed them outside. I will be redoing my front porch and probably putting them in somewhere there, but this is what they look like for now. On to the next one. So this next one needs a few more supplies, but it certainly isn't that much harder. You need some zip ties. You need this round wreath form, which I got from the Dollar Tree. You need 4 of these spooky skeletons, again from the Dollar Tree. Some of the plastic chains that they have, and some candles, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And all you're doing is you're attaching the skeletons with a zip tie to the wreath form. Now, as you can see, the wreath form is put with the curved side up, and then I'm taking apart these skeletons, well, taking the tags off of them, and I'm stretching them out because they're kind of folded in. So I'm stretching them out. They have a wire inside, and I'm using the arms to attach the zip ties underneath the fabric so that way you can't see it. And again, you need 4 of these, and I attached each arm, so you'll need 8 zip ties altogether. And you want to attach them so it looks like they are kind of sitting on top of the wreath, and the wreath, or like they're on the side of the wreath, so you're attaching them to the side rather than on top, so they're laying down, so it looks like they're kind of, the wreath is in the back of them, basically. Also, to tame down the lights a little bit because they're very bright LEDs, I did color them with orange Sharpie, and so they kind of are a little bit muted. Not too much, but a little bit. You can see that over here. So hopefully you like this and you give it a try. So let's move on to the next one. This next DIY is using an old picture frame. You can obviously use Dollar Tree ones or anything that you have on hand. You can even use a foam board and make a little frame out of it. And some black spray paint, and I got the glossy kind as well, and then I needed a skull as well as 2 of the creepy hands and some cheesecloth. So what I'm doing is I'm going to make a ghost skeleton coming out of this picture frame, holding a chain, but you could attach a lantern or anything you want to it. So I started off with spray painting it black. And while it was drying, I tried to use this knife to cut the bottom part of the creepy hand off so that I could glue it, but it wasn't really working, so I wound up breaking it off. But like I said, I did try to use the knife. You can probably use something better, but it was just as easy to break it, so that's what I did. Then I used some Mod Podge. And I dipped my cheesecloth into the Mod Podge. You can dilute it a little bit so you don't use as much, but I didn't dilute it at all. I have lots of Mod Podge, so I just used it. And I just made sure that the whole cheesecloth was soaked in it and covered, so I just kind of mushed it around a little bit. And then I hot glued all of my pieces to the picture frame and then put this cloth right over top. You're going to see it in the next part. And for the cheesecloth, I just dabbed a little bit of hot glue into different places just to keep it on. It'll harden nice over top. And inside, once it hardened, I put just little twinkle lights from the Dollar Tree, battery operated ones, to give this some light. But here I have pictures of with lights and without for you to have a peek at. So here they are. So this next DIY is a little bit more involved, not hard, just a little bit more involved. I'm using one of these thrifted trays, but you can use those silver trays that they have at the Dollar Tree as well. But this one I had on hand, so I used this one, and I roughed it up a little bit by sanding it just roughly and then painting it with a mixture of some green, black, and silver paint. And again, I just kind of dabbed everything on with a paper towel. Actually, I used a wet wipe, but it was dry, so paper towel is what would work. So once I was happy with the coverage, I put this doll head on. Now this doll head is from the Dollar Tree again. It was just a random doll head that they had, so it was perfect for what I needed. I covered her eyes and then I spray painted her green and her hair black. Now for her body, I got one of those skeletons from the Dollar Tree again, the hanging ones, and I spray painted that green as well. And I only actually just used the arms and the chest from that skeleton. I removed the legs, and that was easy to do. And I did cut her hair off after I painted. I should have done it before, but I did it after because I thought I could use it, but then it wasn't sticking on properly, so I did not. And I hot glued her head to the tray. And then I added a witch's hat to her head. The witch's hat was just from like a chair cover or something that I had left over. It had like a little mini hat, but Dollar Tree does have those witch's hats, those mini witch's hats that you can get. So just pick up one of those, or if there's like a dog costume, Halloween dog costume, it'll probably have a witch's hat in there too. And for her cape, I just had one of those shawls that they have from the Dollar Tree, and it's a Halloween theme, so it has spider webs. So I got one of those and I just cut it to cover the skeleton body. And I did paint her nails as well. I painted them black. I didn't sew the cape or anything like that. I just kind of measured how much I thought I needed and roughly cut it and then wrapped it around her and hot glued it. So very easy because I want it to be kind of like sitting over top of her like a cape. If you are super handy and want to sew something, or if you find a dress, a witch's costume or something for a doll, you by all means can do this and use this. I did not see anything. Actually, to be honest with you, I didn't really look, but I did look for hats, and I didn't look for hats because I had a hat at home, but I did happen to see hats when I was there. So when I removed the tape from her eyes, I realized that her eyes were a little bit painted green. Some of it was left with the other color of her body, so I painted some black over top of them, and I kind of made her look a little bit meaner. Although she could still look meaner. Looking back at her now, I think maybe like with her nose I could have done something, but it's okay for now. My kids aren't scared of her, which is good too. Now I was looking for some sort of crystal ball. I didn't find one, but I did find this. It's like one of those plastic snow globe things, but it's got like kind of a crystal ball cover on it, like color on it. So I hot glued that to the bottom of her body, and I kind of hot glued her hand so it looks like she's holding it. And then I put some command strips at the back and I hung her up on a wall. So here she is all finished with her nails painted. And I did put a little tea light into because it unscrews into this crystal ball at the bottom, so you can see her lit up. It's hard to see because of the lighting, but hopefully you can see. Well, I think she turned out really nice. Okay, for this next one, it's again super easy. You need one of these cloches from the Dollar Tree, which they still have even now. And you need just some sort of container. I'm using a paint container and some saran wrap. And what you're going to do is wrap your container, so like my paint bottle, in the saran wrap. And then you're going to take some cheesecloth and you're going to put it over top of the saran wrap. But before you do that, you're going to dip it in some Mod Podge and then put it over top. Let it dry to make a cute little fun decoration. This is actually a Pottery Barn hack too, like a look for less, because they sell these at the Pottery Barn for quite a bit of money. I think they're like 30 bucks or something. And this was what, maybe like $3 if I'm calculating the cheesecloth, but I did not use the whole thing. I actually used that cheesecloth for that other project and for this, and I still have some left over. So that cheesecloth went a long way. So I did leave that to dry overnight, and once it was dry, I just painted on 2 eyes onto the ghost, and I put again another tea light into the bottom of the ghost, and I carefully removed the saran wrap, which it didn't really stick, got maybe stuck a little bit, but that's it. And kind of I reshaped it a bit if it was a wonky shape, so you might want to do that. And that's all there is to it. So here he is finished. I think he turned out super cute and will make a nice little accent to my decorations. So the final DIY, which I don't even want to call it a DIY because it really is like the easiest thing you'll ever make, is I got this soap because it was orange from the Dollar Tree, and I got some bugs. Now these bugs are from the Dollar Tree, and a snake. These are left over from a previous project. I removed the label, and then I had to use some glue gun to get rid of the stickiness from the sticker. And I cut the little spiders. Well, I thought I was going to have to cut them, but then I wound up just kind of squishing them into the bottle. So I didn't need to cut them, but if you want to cut them, you want to use something like these pliers to do that. Once I cleaned my bottle and took all of the stickers off, I went ahead and I shoved these animals into the bottle and displayed it in my bathroom. Now I did buy this little dish from the Dollar Tree. It's plastic. Not sure what it's meant for, maybe candies. I used it as the base for this little soap bottle. I am thinking that I might add some sort of saying, maybe like witch's brew or magic potion or something, a little design, and cut it out with my Cricut, but I haven't done that yet. Just looking at it now after it's been done for a few days, I think I might add it, but we'll see. But this is what it looks like now, and it turned out really cute. Like I said, just shove these in there, whatever spiders, bugs that you want to put in there, and it just makes a cute little Halloween soap. So here it is displayed in my bathroom. It looks really cute, and I really like it on that spider. I contemplated hot gluing it, but my kids like to take the soap off, so I didn't hot glue it. I just left it as is. You do what suits your family and your guests. But here it is. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was spooktacular, and I hope it gave you lots of inspiration. I have more things that I'm creating. I love doing Halloween DIYs, so hopefully you enjoy these. Gives you some inspiration, some ideas that you can maybe make yourself. I thought I included a whole bunch, some that were very easy to do, very inexpensive, and some that were a little bit more involved. But again, I think all of these were super easy. You don't need tons of tools. You basically need a hot glue gun and some paint and the Dollar Tree. All right, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. And happy Summerween. Hopefully you get loads of inspiration from all the Summerweening that you're going to be doing. Thank you. Bye now.